Welcome back. Today we are reading chapter 16 of Because of Winn, Dixie. Now, this is the chapter that Miss Franny tells Opal about Litmus W. Block. Alright, chapter 16. Litmus W. Block was just a boy when the firing on Fort Sumter occurred, Miss Franny Block said as she started in on her story. Fort Sumter, I said. It was the firing on Fort Sumter that started the war, said Amanda. Okay, I said. I shrugged. Well, Litmus was 14 years old. He was strong and big, but he was just a boy. His daddy, Artley W. Block, had already enlisted, and Litmus told his mama that he could not stand by and let the South get beat, so he went to fight too. Miss Franny looked around the library, and then she whispered, Men and boys always want to fight. They're always looking for a reason to go to war. Oh, it's the saddest thing. They have this abiding notion that war is fun, and no history lesson will convince them differently. Anyway, Litmus went and enlisted. He lied about his age. Yes, ma'am, like I said, he was a big boy, and the army took him, and Litmus went off to war just like that, left behind his mother and 3 sisters. He went off to be a hero, but he soon found out the truth. Miss Franny closed her eyes and shook her head. What's the truth? I asked her. Why, that war is the very worst, Miss Franny said with her eyes still closed. The very worst. Whoa, said Amanda. Are you sure? I stole a look at her. Her face was pinched up even more than usual. She shook her head and opened her eyes. She pointed at me, and then she pointed at Amanda. Neither of you can imagine what it's like. No, ma'am, Amanda and me said at the exact same time. We looked real quick at each other and then back at Miss Franny. You cannot imagine. Litmus was hungry all the time, and he was covered with all manner of vermin, fleas, and lice. And in the winter, he was so cold he thought for sure he would freeze. And in the summer, why, there's nothing worse than war in the summertime. It stinks and it's hot, and the only thing that made Litmus forget that he was hungry and itchy and hot or cold was that he was getting shot at. And they were shooting quite a bit, and there was nothing more, and he was nothing more than a child. Did he die? Asked Miss Franny. Oh, goodness, said Amanda. She rolled her eyes. Now, Opal, said Miss Franny, I wouldn't be standing in this room telling the story if he was killed. I wouldn't exist. No, ma'am. He had to live. But he was a changed man. Yes, ma'am, a changed man. He walked back home when the war was over. He walked from Virginia all the way back to Georgia. He didn't have a horse. Nobody had a horse except for the Yankees. He walked, and when he got home, there was no home there. Where was it? I asked her. I didn't care if Amanda thought I was silly. I wanted to know. Why? Miss Franny shouted so loud that when Dixie and Amanda Wilkinson and me all jumped. The Yankees burned his house down. Yes, ma'am, burned it to the ground. What about his sisters? Amanda asked. She moved around the desk and came and sat on the floor. She looked up at Miss Franny. What happened to them? They died. Typhoid fever. Oh no, Amanda said in a real soft voice. And his mama? I whispered. She passed too. And his father? Amanda asked. What happened to him? He passed away on the battlefield. Litmus was an orphan? I asked. Yes, ma'am, said Miss Franny Block. Litmus was an orphan. This is an awfully sad story, I told Miss Franny. Sure is, said Amanda. I was amazed that she was agreeing with me about something. I'm not done yet, Miss Franny said, when Dixie started to snore, and I nudged him with my foot to try to make him quit. I wanted to hear the rest of the story. It was important to me to hear how Litmus survived after losing everything he loved. Now that was kind of a sad chapter. The war and Litmus coming back from the war, and his whole family had passed away. So I'm going to read the next chapter too, because the story has a happy ending. So chapter 17. Well, Litmus came home from the war, said Miss Franny, and she went on with her story, and found himself alone. And he sat down on what used to be the front step of his house, and he cried and he cried. He missed his mama and his daddy and his sisters, and he missed the boy he used to be. When he finally finished crying, he had the strangest sensation. He felt like he wanted something sweet. He wanted a piece of candy. He hadn't had a piece of candy in years, and it was right then that he made a decision. Yes, ma'am, Litmus W. Block figured the world was a sorry affair and that had enough ugly things in it, and what was he going to do but concentrate on putting something sweet in it? He got up and started walking. He walked all the way to Florida, and the whole time he was walking, he was planning. Planning what? I asked. Why, he was planning the candy factory. Did he build it? I asked. Of course he did. It's still standing out on Fairville Road. That old building? Said Amanda. That big spooky one? It's not spooky, said Miss Franny. It was the birthplace of the family fortune. It was there that my great-grandfather manufactured the Litmus lozenge, a candy that was famous the world over. I've never heard of it, said Amanda. Me neither, I said. Well, said Miss Franny, they aren't made any more. The world, it seems, lost its appetite for Litmus lozenges, but I still happen to have a few. She opened the top drawer of her desk. It was full of candy. She opened the drawer below that. It was full of candy, too. Miss Franny Block's whole desk was full of candy. Would you care for a Litmus lozenge? She asked Amanda and me. Yes, please, said Amanda. Sure, I said. Can Winn-Dixie have one, too? I have never known a dog that cared for hard candy, said Miss Franny, but he's welcome to try one. Miss Franny gave Amanda one Litmus lozenge and me 2. I unwrapped one and held it out to Winn-Dixie. He sat up and sniffed it and wagged his tail and took the candy from between my fingers real gentle. He tried to chew on it, and when that didn't work, he just swallowed the whole thing in one big gulp. Then he wagged his tail at me and lay back down. I ate my Litmus lozenge slow. It tasted good. It tasted like root beer and strawberry and something else I didn't have a name for. Something that made me feel kind of sad. I looked over at Amanda. She was sucking on her candy and thinking hard. Do you like it? Miss Franny asked me. Yes, ma'am, I told her. What about you, Amanda? Do you like the Litmus lozenge? Yes, ma'am, she said, but it makes me think of things I feel sad about. I wondered what in the world would Amanda Wilkinson have to feel sad about. She wasn't new to town. She had a mom and a daddy. I had seen her with them in church. There's a secret ingredient in there, Miss Franny said. I know, I told her. I can taste it. What is it? Sorrow, said Miss Franny. Not everyone can taste it. Children especially seem to have a hard time knowing it's there. Sorrow is a very fancy word for sadness. I taste it, I said. Me too, said Amanda. Well then, Miss Franny said, you probably both had your share of sadness. I had to move away from Watley and leave all my friends, I said. That is one sadness I've had. And Dunlap and Stevie Dewberry are always picking on me. That's another sadness. And the biggest one, my biggest sadness, is that my mama left me when I was still small, and I can hardly remember her. I keep hoping I'll get to meet her and tell her some stories. Makes me miss Carson, said Amanda. She sounded like she was going to cry. I have to go. And she got up and almost ran out of the library. Who's Carson? I asked Miss Franny. She shook her head. Sorrow, she said. It's a sorrow-filled world. But how do you put that in a piece of candy? I asked her. How do you get the taste in there? That's the secret, she said. That's why Litmus made a fortune. He manufactured a piece of candy that tasted sweet and sad at the same time. Can I have a piece to take to my friend Gloria Dump? And another to take to Otis down at Gertrude's Pets? And one for the preacher and one for Sweetie Pie, too? You can have as many as you want, said Miss Franny. So I stuffed my pockets full of Litmus lozenges, and I thanked Miss Franny for her story, and I checked out Gone with the Wind, which was a very big book, and I told Winn-Dixie to get up, and the two of us left and went over to Gloria Dump's. I rode right past the Dewberry's house. Dunlap and Stevie were playing football in the front yard, and I was just getting ready to stick my tongue out at them. Then I thought about what Miss Franny said about war being awful, and I thought about what Gloria Dump said about not judging them too hard. So I waved instead. They stood and stared past me, but when I was almost all the way past, I saw Dunlap put up his hand and wave back. "Hey," he hollered. "Hey, Opal!" I waved harder than I thought about Amanda Wilkinson and how it was neat that she liked a good story the same as I did. And I wondered, who was Carson? All right, end of that chapter. Now, one chapter was really sad, and the other chapter talked about how Litmus took his sadness and made something sweet and good for his life. So I want you to think about a sadness you might have right now, but then how you could make it better, or how it might end up better. So the first thing I was thinking about right now is that we have to be at home a lot, can't go to school, which is really sad, but we're able to spend some more time with our families. So that's something good. I want to thank you for watching another video, and I can't wait to see you again soon. Bye.